Hi, welcome back to the Tiger Paw vlog. My name's Penny Beard, and today we are going to talk about intimacy anorexia. This is a term coined by psychologist Dr. Doug Weiss, Executive Director of Heart to Heart Counseling in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And I just learned this phrase this weekend, and I have been both relieved and now am struggling with having the awareness of what it actually means, because it's just another indicator of the large amount of damage that has been done to our marriage because of my husband's sex addiction. Intimacy anorexia is, as Dr. Weiss states it, I'm going to have to read it because it's still so new. It is the active withholding of emotional, spiritual, and sexual intimacy from a partner. So, to explain it just a little bit further, I'll let Dr. Weiss do that.
Intimacy anorexia is the active, and it's really important, active withholding of spiritual, emotional, and sexual intimacy from you, the spouse, the primary relationship. Oh, they're good giving their time and energy to everyone else, but you feel married and alone. You feel like a roommate. You feel like a sister. You feel like a friend without benefits. Characteristics, real quickly. He's too busy for you. He blames you for problems in the relationship. Rarely, I'm sorry, I'm wrong, okay? He withholds love from you, especially the way you want to be loved. He withholds spiritually from you. He withholds praise from you. He withholds sex from you, or he is disconnected during sex, okay? He's unwilling or unable to share his feelings with you. He uses anger and silence as a way to control in your relationship, okay? He has ongoing or ungrounded criticism of you. He might control or shame around money issues, but I guarantee you, you feel like a roommate. If you got 5 or more of those, you probably have a situation where he is intimacy anorexic.
So Dr. Weiss says that it's a choice. And the first conflict that came into my mind in trying to process this was Dr. Gabor Maté's telling is that addiction is not a choice. And I'll let Dr. Maté explain it.
So an addiction is a complex psychological, physiological process, but which manifests in any behavior that a person enjoys, finds relief in, and therefore craves in the short term, but suffers negative consequences in the long term and doesn't give up despite the negative consequences. So craving pleasure, relief in the short term, negative consequences in the long term, inability to give it up. Now, notice I have said nothing about substances. I said any behavior. So it could be related to cocaine, crystal meth, heroin, fentanyl, marijuana, nicotine, alcohol, whatever. Could also be sex, gambling, internet, relationships, shopping, eating, work, extreme sports, working out, pornography, any number of human activities. So I said any behavior. I don't see it as it's a genetic disorder, and I don't see it as a primary brain disorder. And which goes back to what happens in childhood when there's stress and trauma, these endorphin systems don't develop. And then when people do heroin, it feels like a warm, soft hug to them. They feel love and connection for the first time. That's why it's so powerful. So in other words, the addiction is not the primary problem. It's an attempt to solve a problem. This is where my theory is that it's always rooted in childhood trauma, and that the addiction is an attempt to deal with the effects of childhood trauma, which it does temporarily, while it creates even more problems in the long term. And which is why anybody who thinks this is a choice is out of their minds.
So you can see now where they kind of bumped up against one another, because Dr. Maté is saying it's not a choice. And it not being a choice would explain why it's been going on for as long as it has been. But Dr. Weiss's explanation of it being a choice, I feel, is also accurate. And so I've wrestled over the last few days of how to reconcile these two opinions. ideally, I would love to see Dr. Weiss and Dr. Maté have a conversation. But here's what I came up with. Compulsion is absolutely not a choice. I totally agree with Dr. Maté on this from my own personal experience. And I did a lot of drinking, and it was compulsive. And so then to slide on over here to Dr. Weiss and it being a choice and that I chose to keep drinking. See, that's where the compulsion part comes in. But the choice did happen along the way. I do remember thinking and feeling bad about the amount of drinking that I was doing. I knew I was hurting those around me. The compulsion kept me drinking, but I was making a choice in an essence that I overrode that impulse, my intuition. I overrode it to allow the compulsion to continue without any opposition. I made a choice in 2017 to go to rehab. And the choice happened when the pain exceeded the reward center results. Because the drinking was for the reward center, to numb everything out, dull everything out so I didn't have to feel the pain. So short-term benefit, long-term consequences. Eventually the pain of drinking outweighed the benefit of drowning it out. So I had to go get help. That was a choice. And I made that choice because I was suicidal. So I knew either I went and got some help or it was going to end badly for me. And so to get back to intimacy, anorexia, it is the withholding by choice of emotional, spiritual, and sexual intimacy. Because the sex addict is taking all the resources that they have and they're taking it to the object of their sexual fantasies, not the real person that they're in a relationship with. And so all the resources go to the sex addiction. I didn't get emotional connection. He doesn't even know. He has a great difficulty in naming what he's feeling. He doesn't know the emotions that he's having. He can't name them. And he absolutely could not meet me spiritually because of the shame that was surrounding the sex addiction. So, and then the sexual intimacy couldn't be authentic because it couldn't match what was going on in his fantasy world, because it was reality. So yes, he did withhold emotional, spiritual, and sexual intimacy from me by choice, because he kept choosing to allow the compulsion to continue without being objected to. So, all that said, it's very real. Intimacy, anorexia is very real. And I really didn't appreciate finding the Healthline article poo-pooing all over Dr. Weiss's work because sex addiction isn't in the DSM-5.
If she'd have kept on going down that way, she'd have gone straight to that castle.
And the article even goes so far as that the experts won't agree if that's the help that you're seeking from therapists or counselors. It's not a recognizable phrase, therefore you won't be treated for it. I've got a long-running beef with the APA anyway. I think the APA treats the DSM-5 like it's Bible, like it's Holy Writ somehow, so if it doesn't hold up to their Holy Writ, then it's not legitimate, and I think that's bullshit. So, I really hope that that Healthline article doesn't get listened to, because I'm here to tell you, intimacy anorexia is absolutely real. And the good news is that because it's real, because it's been named, and because it's been addressed and broken down into a process by a man who's been doing this work for 30 years, just makes it so much more accessible than trying to dress up a problem as something it's not and take it to an APA-based model of therapy and just sit there and work yourself in circles for years while they stuff you with pills, and you don't ever get to the root of the problem. And the root of the problem in sex addiction, as a side order of fries, is intimacy anorexia. The better connected we are to ourselves, the more functional we become in our relationships, in our purpose, and in our contributions to our local communities and the world at large. So authentic connection begins with a choice. It's a choice to live fully and as healthily as possible. It's a tall order. And I'm not there yet. How about you? Feel free to leave a comment below, and please let's remember to keep it respectful while we're sharing our hard and heartbroken experiences of being on the receiving end of intimacy anorexia. I'm also interested in hearing from you if you have been on the giving end of this and you are just now realizing what your actions have caused to others around you. But until next time, this is Penny at the Tiger Paw Vlog, and I hope y'all take care. Bye.